Today, we are opening up the essential toolkit for anyone who's serious about improving how work actually gets done. We're talking about process mapping symbols. And look, this isn't just some academic exercise in drawing diagrams. This is about mastering the visual language that top consultants and operations leaders use to turn organizational chaos into streamlined, profitable systems.
So think about a process in your own organization for a second. Do you really know every single step, every decision point, every single delay from the very start to the very end? For a lot of people, key processes are basically a black box. Stuff goes in, stuff comes out, but what happens in between? It's a total mystery. And that mystery, it's expensive. It's exactly where inefficiency loves to hide, where errors just multiply, and where opportunities for improvement are lost. So, how do we crack open that black box? Well, the first rule of process improvement is pretty simple. You don't guess, you see. And process mapping, that's our flashlight. It's the foundational diagnostic tool that lets us stop making assumptions and start dealing with the cold, hard reality of what's happening. It is the first, non-negotiable step to understanding, analyzing, and ultimately transforming any business operation. Okay, let's dive right in. We've broken this whole topic down into 5 clear, logical parts. First, we'll cover the why, the real strategic reason we even bother with mapping. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the core symbols for flow and data. After that, we'll look at some advanced tools for those really complex maps. And finally, we'll put it all into practice.
So, first things first, the strategic why. Why do we do this? Simple. We map processes to create a single source of truth. It gets teams away from just telling stories and staying in their own little silos. That whole world of, I think this is what happens. Instead, it gives everyone a shared visual understanding of reality. And without that alignment, any improvement project is just built on sand. It's pretty much destined to fail.
All right, let's move to our first set of tools and see how this all starts to build. These are the flow and control symbols. I want you to think of these as the fundamental grammar of your process map. They are the nouns, the verbs, the conjunctions you're going to use to tell the story of how work actually flows through your system.
Every effective analysis has to start with a clearly defined scope. And that is exactly what the Terminator symbol gives us. It establishes the boundaries. Without clear boundaries, you get what we call scope creep, and that is a project killer. Using the Terminator forces a really critical conversation right up front. What problem are we actually trying to solve here? And where does our influence begin and end?
Next up, we've got the absolute workhorse of any process map, the rectangle. This is your process step. This symbol just signifies any action being performed. Review application, assemble product, contact client, these are the building blocks. And as you map, the key question you have to ask for every single one of these boxes is this: does this step actually add value for the customer? You'd be amazed how often the answer is no.
Now this next one, this is where things get really interesting. The diamond is a decision point. This is where your process branches. Does the application meet the criteria? Yes or no? Is the part within tolerance? Pass or fail? Let me tell you, for anyone looking to improve a process, these diamonds are absolute gold mines. They are the control points where you can steer the workflow, sort the good from the bad, and apply business logic.
And this symbol, this one, illustrates one of the biggest targets of any improvement project. The D symbol represents a delay. This is any period where work is just sitting there, waiting for an approval, waiting for a machine, waiting for information. This is pure non-value-added time. And just making these delays visible on a map is often the first huge aha moment for a team.
Okay, a quick but super critical deep dive here. You might have noticed a bit of a discrepancy. While a lot of guides show a rounded rectangle for the Terminator, if you're taking a certification exam, say a Six Sigma Green Belt, the textbook answer is almost always an oval. The source material for this explainer even had people pointing this out. So here's the key takeaway: know your audience. If you're in an exam, use the oval. But in a corporate workshop, the rounded rectangle is perfectly fine. Context is everything.
All right, so we've covered the flow of work. But let's be real, modern processes are just as much about the flow of information. So let's move on to our next set of symbols and see how we can build a more complete picture. These symbols help us track data, documents, and storage all the way through the process.
This group adds a whole new layer of rich detail. The inverse triangle for storage, that highlights inventory, a classic source of waste. The document symbol flags where reports get generated, which begs the question, who actually reads them? The data parallelogram tracks where information is created or used, and pay very close attention to that manual input shape. In a consultant's eyes, that symbol is a blinking red light. It just screams high risk of human error and prime candidate for automation.
So what happens when your process is huge, spanning multiple departments or even different physical locations? Your map can quickly become a tangled mess of lines, what we sometimes call a spaghetti diagram. And a good analysis has to be a clear analysis. So this next set of symbols is all about maintaining that clarity, even at a massive scale. The crucial point here is all about managing the visual real estate of your map. That small circle is an on-page connector. It lets you jump from one part of the page to another without drawing confusing, overlapping lines. That little bridge-like shape? That's an off-page connector, linking your flow to a completely different page. And finally, the subroutine symbol. This one is an absolute game changer for clarity. It lets you take a complex, multi-step subprocess, like run credit check, and represent it with a single box. This keeps your main map clean and high-level, letting you zoom into the details only when you need to. Okay, so we've covered the theory, we've gone through the toolkit, but knowledge is only useful when you can actually apply it, right? So now we're going to do a quick reality check with a couple of exam-style questions drawn straight from our source material. Let's see if you're ready for the field.
Okay, here's the first one. A project lead uses a diamond symbol in their process map. What does that diamond represent? Is it an ending point, a beginning point, a decision point, or maybe a repair station? Take a second to think it over.
And the answer is C, decision. Remember, the diamond is always where the path splits based on some condition, like yes or no or pass-fail. It's the symbol for applying logic right inside the flow. All right, question number 2 for you. Which of these shapes is used to represent a termination point in a flowchart? Is it a rectangle, a diamond, an arrow, or an oval? Think carefully about this one, we talked about it. The correct answer here is D, oval. And this just perfectly illustrates that practical nuance we discussed earlier. While you'll absolutely see rounded rectangles used out in the wild, the formal, exam standard answer for a start or stop point, the terminator, is the oval. Knowing that little distinction is key to passing your certification.
So let's bring it all together. The symbols we've just covered, they're not just for passing a test. They are the instruments you use to conduct a real business diagnosis. They are how you move from saying, I think the problem is, to I can prove the problem is right here. This is the skill that separates amateur problem solvers from the professional change agents who deliver measurable bottom-line results. So, you now have the fundamental tools to start mapping. The real question I'll leave you with is this: what is the most critical, most mysterious black box process in your world? And now that you have the flashlight, when are you going to go turn on the lights?